Hey, everybody. For those that don't know, my name is Marc Shumsker, and I have been on YouTube now for 14 years. That's a very long journey. And along that journey, I've seen a lot, I've learned a lot, and today is the start of something new, start of something that I'm very excited about. And it's something that, in the casino industry, as I've been here and done that, and today I'm going to talk about some of that journey. There's this loud pillar for me, this thing that I just was like, you know what? I need to communicate this to people. I need to share this authentically with people. I need to talk about this with people. And we're going to get into that. And before I tell you what it is, I'm going to go into why today. And yeah, this is No Gamblers Nation. And thank you for being here with me. I want to just start by showing everybody this right here, which is the start for me of True Poker Dealer. This is a long time ago, 14 years ago. I created this channel. Let me make this nice and big on my screen so I can see it. And this is why I'm the one here talking to you right now, because this channel it's become the most popular poker dealer resource in the world. And you can see back here, these videos, it started, what is this? February 10th, 2012, over 1.4 million views. And the channel has just taken off, and people have been supportive to me, and I've taught more than 10,000 people to do the job of being a poker dealer over the years. And I've been in casinos for 19 years total. Okay. I've made a lot of observations in casinos. I've been here. I've done that. It's been a very, very powerful journey for me and a huge part of my life. And yeah, so here we are. We're going to dive into something that nobody talks about. Nobody in the industry talks about it. It's shocking. We all feel it. And we're going to just dive right into this. I want to start, though, by sort of paving the way for my personal journey so that you who's watching right now can understand like where I came from and how I've sort of gained this valuable insight. And I want to take you all the way back to before I ever worked in a casino, before I ever did anything really with gambling. I remember there was one day when I used to have a summer job in my hometown. And there was one day where I was talking to my dad, and he sort of excitedly showed me a scratch ticket. And I was maybe 19 years old at the time. And it was a summer, either right before my first year of college or after my first year of college, something like that. And he showed me a scratch ticket that he got. I lived in Massachusetts, and the scratch ticket game in Massachusetts was a pretty crazy thing back then. And this particular ticket, he said that he found this ticket. He did not buy this ticket. He said he found this ticket, and it was a winning ticket. And I think it was like $10 or $20. And I was like, what are you talking about? And this was like my introduction, not only to gambling in general, but to sort of just being an adult and talking to people in this world and all these things. Like I was pretty introverted back then. And let me change this. Let's see. So I had this scratch ticket, and he told me that people throw away winning tickets all the time, all over the place. And I was a little bit skeptical, but I was like, you know what? I went with a friend of mine, and we went to, I got to make this bigger so I can see it. You can see it says found $50 winner in the trash. So I went to a convenience store, it's a Cumberland Farms in my hometown of Sharon, Massachusetts. And we were just like, are people really throwing away winning tickets? And that very first day, the very first day that I was there, we found a $50 winning scratch ticket in the trash. It was a $2 ticket that somebody had just completely thrown away. And the moment that I saw that in the trash, I thought to myself, first of all, this is sort of shocking. This is sort of weird. I can't believe, like truly cannot believe or imagine that somebody would do this and throw this in the trash. And I mean, I was like, I want to see if I can find more of these. So my buddy and I, we, over the next like week or so, we started going to different stores, convenience stores, and it seems a little bit dirtier than you picture. In Massachusetts at the time, there weren't any casinos in that state. And so people just buy lots of scratch offs, and they would put them in a paper trash that was for them. And like, we would just sort of go through them and look, and then we found a few more winners. And over time, we ended up deciding to start going store to store in that area like 3 times a week. It was about 2 hours at a time, and we would go store to store, and we would ask the people that worked at the stores if we could collect the tickets, and we told them that we were doing a gambling addiction study for the University of Massachusetts, which was not true. We just wanted to see if we could essentially grift our way to getting some money. I mean, as college students, like, the dream was maybe we could find a huge winner. And again, this is before I'd ever worked in casinos or anything like that. And so my journey started with me literally going place to place, and asking people for their losing tickets, and we would take them home with us, and we would go through them. And basically, what would happen is a lot of the time when people would buy scratch offs, they would throw ones away, and they would sort of go through them quickly, and not they wouldn't just like throw one or two away. They would buy like a whole stack of them, like 20 of them all stuck together with like, you gotta like tear it away from each one, and there'd be a book of like 100 of them. Someone would buy 20 of them, they go scratch them off, they go. And if there was exactly one winner on the ticket, um, somebody somebody that found that one, like they wouldn't see that there was like four numbers up top and one matching number on the bottom. And so over the years, we found, I mean, we found a $500 winner. We found a bunch of $100 winners. We found lots and lots and lots and lots of winners below that. It was like basically my college experience in the summers was I would work my job, and then after work I would go for a couple hours and just collect these a few days a week with my friend. And it was like sort of a fun social thing. And it felt like, I don't know, it felt a little bit edgy. It felt weird lying to people that I was pretending to do a gambling addiction study, but I did learn how to talk to people from this experience. And the whole time, I just had this whole view that I really wanted to win the lottery, right? Like, I did not want to go and get a regular desk job. I did not want to. I was going to school, to college for engineering, and my nightmare, honestly, I didn't understand, how to live at the time, and my nightmare was sitting in front of a computer as an engineer all day for 60 hours a week, is what I pictured it being. And so I was hoping literally that somebody would throw away a winning ticket for a large amount, and the most that we ever found was $500 over those few summers. And it says at the bottom that all the money disappeared. What we ended up doing at the end of each summer with all the money that we got from it, like, we bought a couple of things here and there for ourselves, but for the most part, we took all the money. And this is embarrassing, and I haven't told people in my life this, but it's true. We spent it on Powerball, because the whole purpose of what we were doing in our heads was to make it so that we didn't have to live the nightmare of getting a job and being stressed out all the time. And so we spent over $3,000 over those 3 or 4 summers buying Powerball tickets. It was like, I remember there was $563 worth of tickets we got one time. And yeah, all the money disappeared. And I can be embarrassed about it now, but that is the journey as it was back then. And so let me see how to add this. I had some observations that I learned along the way, and I want to share them with you guys. And this is just a part of my journey to landing in this place for No Gamblers Nation and for what I'm going to talk about. So first of all, the Massachusetts scratch ticket system, along the way of this journey, like, I started looking all kinds of things up. Like, I was fascinated. How is it that people are throwing away winning scratch offs in the trash? And because I would spend a lot of time in these stores doing this, the people that worked at the stores would tell me, "Oh, there's this guy that comes in with a notebook, and he literally is transparent about what he's found in the trash." And I'm like, "Seriously?" And there was one time I actually ran into this guy. He had a notebook. He showed me a $40,000 winner that he'd won. He showed me all these other numbers of things that he had won just going store to store collecting them. I mean, like, I was doing this as a college kid basically, but there were people that were doing this as a full-time job, like full-time job, going store to store across the state of Massachusetts, collecting losing tickets from the trash, going through them. And by the way, I will say this, the feeling of seeing a one spot winner, like, in order to find these winners, you had to collect all these tickets and then go through them. And so we would bring them back to our house and go through them all. And the feeling of finding a one spot winner was pretty wild. There was almost 0 days that I would collect tickets and find no winners. I maybe had 1 or 2 days in the entire multiple years that I did this in the summers, and it's maybe like 10 weeks in the summer where I would do this like 2 to 3 times a week. But I probably had 0 to 1 days where I found zero winners. And that was just a wild experience. And finding a winner was just a crazy experience too, because you don't know how much it's going to be. And as it says up here, many top prizes are never claimed. People throw away tickets all the time, and many top prizes are never claimed. And all of the top prizes are one spot winners, every single one of them. And that was really striking to me. And I actually took it so far as to look it up in the system. I found that in the Massachusetts lottery website, you could look up the games that were going on and the games that had recently ended. And you could literally see how many of these tickets were cashed in. And so like there were games that had completely closed, like they had every single ticket had been sold, and that's how they measure it. All the tickets have been sold to customers. And there would be something like 15 to 17 out of $20 million prizes that were cashed in, and the rest were just never cashed in. And like I'm sitting there going through this whole thing, completely understanding, like, oh my God, I totally see it. I know with 100% certainty that this is what's happening. People are just throwing these away. And so it was just a fascinating experience going through all that stuff. And then this one got me too. There were so many tickets that we would get when we went through these paper trashes, where there's like a booth for scratch offs, and people would just like scratch them and dump them in the trash, scratch them, dump them in the trash. In these booths, there would be so many times that we would find tickets that the numbers themselves weren't even scratched. People were just scratching the codes, and the codes on scratch tickets, they don't actually communicate when there's $1,000 or greater winner. So anybody who has I don't know how long it's been like this, but nowadays you can scan the ticket. I don't think you could do this. Well, you definitely couldn't do this back then. But anybody who would get a scratch off, like in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, in that time, and they just scratch the code off, they're never going to know if they get $1,000 winner. They're never going to know if they get a $10,000 winner. They're never going to know if they get a $50,000 winner. They're never going to know if they get $1 million winner. Like they would just be throwing the big ones away and never have any idea about it. I even found unscratched tickets regularly thrown away in the trash. And what I came to understand was that people would buy entire books of them, just like it says right there. And I know that because they were all still attached. Like they would just scratch, 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 scratch. They would buy entire books of them. And then if they hit something big, they might even forget that there were additional tickets there. And so we found so many unscratched tickets, tickets with just the code scratched off, and tickets that hadn't been looked at thoroughly. And this journey, this process, like really taught me a lot about how people think. I'd never experienced anything to this point in my life where people were just wildly illogical in this way. And I didn't understand at the time that my dad was one of the people doing this, which I later found out, and I'll talk about that. But the people that were scratching off these tickets were completely out of control. And you can tell when you find unscratched tickets in the trash, tickets that the code's only thing scratched out and the real prizes aren't there, like entire books still together, and just like all these top prizes that are never even claimed. The numbers for the lottery, I don't have a graphic for this, but the numbers for the lottery in the US, it's something like $100 billion in revenue in the US a year. And, it's a crazy thing watching people do this and just like gamble and gamble and gamble. And I do understand, this is something that people enjoy doing sometimes. And I understand where they're coming from. And also, these are some big numbers. A lot of money is going to gambling for lottery, scratch offs. And I definitely learned a lot about that whole process along that way. And so shortly after getting into all this, for me, the next step in college was I ended up playing online poker. And let me just bring everybody back for a second to what this looks like. Let's see. Online poker in 2003. I mean, the whole Chris Moneymaker thing. As a college student, I was somebody that was a part of online poker even before that, the Chris Moneymaker thing. And this is a graphic of party poker. And why am I showing party poker? Because this is the first one that I was ever introduced to. And if you can relate to this, you might know exactly what this is, right? Like this is 2003, 2004 party poker in a nutshell. This is what anybody who was around back then in the US that liked poker, you were either playing this right before or you were playing this for sure right after the Chris Moneymaker thing happened. And, just in case someone doesn't know what I'm talking about, in 2003, Chris Moneymaker spent $40 on Poker Stars in order to win his way into the World Series of Poker main event. And they ended up winning the main event for millions of dollars. And anybody that knows poker knows that. But I know, some people might not know that. And that made everything popular, combined with the whole card cam where people could see as a part of the storytelling what those cards were. And so that brought a lot of people like myself to this. I sort of got into it right before that, but that made it full on like, oh my God, we're playing online poker. And along my online poker journey, I noticed a few things were happening. Like I had a lot of fun with it. I was playing online poker regularly, and I was in college. And I think I have a visual for this. So I see the place where, what visual do I have for online poker? Yeah, that's good. All right. We're going to get real with you for a second here now, because like I have to really just be okay sharing things about my life, because some things about my life are a little bit embarrassing, and everybody can sort of relate to that. But right here, this is my online poker journey. I started playing poker when I was in college online, and you get so many hands in like that. And I was playing for real money on party poker. To this day, I do not know if it was rigged. It felt rigged, and it didn't stop me from continuing to play. But just like it says right here, I skipped class to play. Not all my classes, obviously, but it was way more appealing for me to play online poker and, 1, 2, 3, 4 tables at a time, sometimes multi-tabling, and just really getting into it. And my strategy was not good enough for me to be doing this for a living. There were people out there back then, especially when the money was good in poker, where there were a lot of bad players that were playing for a living. I wished that was me. I dreamed about that being me, but that was not me. And I remember times where I was playing online poker in college, and I would have somebody come over or have a couple of friends come over, and we would like do something like watch a movie, and I would literally just be playing online poker. And I remember them getting irritated with me because of how not present I was. And there was this place where, like, when I reflect back on it, I was a complete zombie with this. Um, for whatever reason back then, playing in casinos didn't get me, but this did. This got me. This made it so that I was completely addicted to the feeling of playing online poker back then. And, how do I know that I was addicted? Because I was passing up on regular things in my life instead of doing this. And shortly after I got into playing online poker, I left college. I ended up getting a job in the real world. It was not a job that I enjoyed. And I found myself playing online poker at the job too. And there was one day when I was playing online poker at the job, and my dad had got me a job at his company. This was at Thompson Financial. At the time, they were responsible for some of the software that helped make the stock market transactions go in real time. And I was working at this company. I was there sort of like as a just in case temp. And as a temp, I was bored and waiting. I didn't have any assignments. I was there in case somebody needed to test their interface, and they were rolling this new project out. And it was just a weird way for me to be there, bored with no assignments to do. And so I was playing online poker at the job. And there was one day where my dad told me his boss pulled him aside and told him, "So we see what you're doing at work." And he's like, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "We see that on company time, you're playing online poker." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Look, this is a serious thing. Like, we're probably going to have to let you go." And he's just like, "No, seriously, like, what are you talking about?" And as they were in that conversation, at some moment it clicked for the boss, wait a minute, there's more than one Shumsker at this job. And I was the other one. And when they found out it was me, and my dad, who's passed away a handful of years ago, but I remember I can still see him giggling about how funny it was that all of a sudden, when I was the one that was playing online poker at work at the same job as him, there was no consequence because they actually knew that they didn't have anything for me to do. And they found it in their servers is how they could tell. And this was in like 2004, 2005. And all this to say, like, yeah, so I can still see my dad giggling about this and just remembering the fact that nothing happened to his son, but they were ready to fire him over this. And so, you know, I ended up realizing one of the times that I was playing online poker that I could advertise online poker, and this was actually a big deal to me. Um, I knew that there were all these places where people were playing online poker, and I knew that there was a way to get a piece of it. And there was this one poker site, Poker Champs, that advertised that you could essentially make money, like just having other people go sign up for their site. And so I was like, okay. So I signed up as an affiliate for Poker Champs. That was the one that Gus Hansen was the figurehead of. And I started sending people to their site to play online poker. And, you know, before I knew it, I had built up $1,200 a week in passive income from 20,000 people that I had sent to sign up at their site. And I did it with a couple of friends of mine. And 1,200 a week was just my share of this. There was even more money coming in from this in total. And we set it up in a way where we built a website and we told everybody that we were just building a website. But what we were actually doing was we were advertising, and I'm going to pull this back up. We were advertising in Party Poker over and over and over again for people to go and let me show you this right here, because this is pretty funny and this brings me back. Right at the bottom of the screen, you can see it says chat here. Hold on, let me pull this up. Hopefully you can see it says type here to chat. So what we did was we set up a macro with a keyboard where it would automatically scroll to that part of the screen. It would click for us in type here to chat. It would send a predetermined message with a website that we had redirecting to it. And people would go to the website saying, you know, you get a great deal for online poker. I forget what the advertisement was at the time, but we literally set it up to open a poker room, like a poker table like this. And Party Poker had tons of poker tables. Send a message into the chat, go to the next poker room, open, send a message in the chat, go to the next poker room, send a message in the chat, go to the next poker room, over and over and over again. It did it day and night while we were sleeping, while we were awake, while we were away. And we got 20,000 people signed up under us. And that was a pretty wild experience. And they kept, like, every day or two, they would close our account. But what we learned pretty quickly was if we advertised in the play money area of the poker room, they didn't monitor that. They only monitored the real money stuff. And so, you know, there I was just doing that over and over again. And I also had stuff coming in from the actual website that we built. It was just like a website about poker. I think it was called Chain Poker at the time. You can go to the Wayback Machine if you want to see it. It was just basic. We were just teaching people about all that stuff. And let's see. And I mean, you know, for a long time, I was living pretty happy. I had $1,200 a week coming in, and then, I mean, I used that money to travel to Europe. Like, I wasn't taking life too seriously, unfortunately. I wish that I had been taking it more seriously back then, but I was living the dream to a degree. And as you can see in the bottom left here, it says it all disappeared July 20th, 2006. For me, that was a very difficult day. I was at Foxwoods. I had started playing live poker back then, and it was like a hour and a half to 2 hour drive for me from Massachusetts down to Foxwoods, which is in Connecticut. I would never go to Mohegan Sun because they did not have poker at the time. I think they do now. And I learned how to play poker in casinos back then. And so I would take some of the money that I got from the $1,200 a week and go and play poker there. Occasionally I started out playing 5-10 limit and playing 1-2 no limit, and poker was starting to grow a little bit in casinos. I mean, they had 100+ tables at Foxwoods. It was a really cool experience. But one day when I was there playing poker, July 20th, 2006, I got a message in an email, or I got a must have been a text message from my buddy who said that we got an email, because there wasn't email on my phone back then. That everything's over. And I'm like, what? Everything's over. The Unlawful Internet Gambling Act, they passed it. They sort of slipped it into legislation. And all of a sudden, United States financial institutions could no longer interact with overseas gaming merchants. And so Poker Champs basically said you have 24 hours to take any money that you have in your account out of your account. And after that, we're unable to allow you to log into our service. And the players that you signed up, I can't give you any money for it anymore, et cetera, et cetera. I was pretty devastated. And so, I basically went from making decent money to nothing overnight. And, I was in my early 20s. So 1,200 a week back in the early 2000s was devastating to lose. And I thought that I was going to keep growing those numbers too. And then you all, if you played online poker, might remember, what they call Black Friday, which was the day that in 2011, Full Tilt and Absolute Poker and some others ended up being shut down, or at least shut down to US people. And that was that same law that took them 5 years to shut the other ones down. So basically, any of the ones like Poker Champs that said, we're going to follow the law, they stopped immediately. Party Poker stopped immediately. Poker Stars stopped immediately. No, wait, Poker Stars kept going, if I remember right. Yeah, Poker Stars kept going. And then, Poker Stars, Full Tilt, Absolute Poker, they all got shut down by the government. And that was a huge, huge ride for me. I mean, 2011 wasn't as big of a deal, but I went from making 1,200 a week to like nothing. And, let me see. That was a painful day for me in 2006, and I sort of had to figure out what to do with my life at that point. And um, I ended up getting a retail job at a West Elm, owned by Williams Sonoma. I worked at a furniture store at the back end, and um, that was hard. That was hard for me. Let me see something here. So, one of the things for me that was powerful as a poker player and an online poker uh, advertiser, I definitely learned that, only they say only 10 to 15% of people that play poker make money in the long run. At the time, I didn't really understand that. And this is an important thing to understand, that first of all, in poker, players are playing against other players and you can win. And that is an important thing. Just hold on to that information. Obviously, we know this, right? This isn't a secret. But nonetheless, this is an important piece of information. And I didn't really understand at the time why it was only 10 to 15%. I understood that there was a rake. But later, when I started advertising online poker, I literally saw for 20,000 people how much money every single week they contributed to the rake for the online poker site. Like, I saw those numbers and I got 35% of that. So I saw my numbers for how much that made. It was a very large amount of money that was coming in and getting taken out of the pots. And that gave me a real insight into the business side of it. So I would even go so far sometimes when I saw that somebody was making a ton of money, because they would give me a report with all of the names of the players. When I saw that somebody was making a ton of money, I would literally go find them on Poker Champs and watch them play just to see, oh, this person playing at this table made this much money. This person playing at this table made this much money. Like, that was absolutely fascinating to see how much people were making there. But at the time, I was still pretty naive. Like, I just didn't really understand what was going on. And I still liked playing online poker. But now there was this weird taste in my mouth because my government had sort of shut it down and there was still poker being played. But I firsthand knew that there was a law that was passed that in order to keep playing, I had to violate. It was a very confusing time. I was maybe still getting maybe $100 a month or a week or something like that from it. It was pretty insignificant at that point. That's why I got the job at a West Elm. And I decided, you know what, this whole part of my life is over. I want to explore the world a little bit. So my now ex-wife and I, at the time, we ended up going to Washington State. And when I got out to Washington State, I became a casino employee. I took a $75 blackjack class, and that was a real experience for me. Like, when I got to Washington State, I did not know what I was going to do to make money. I knew that I had just recently been working in a retail store, and so worst case scenario, I can pay for my life, just get a job at a retail store. They even told me at the West Elm that I was at that they would, hook me up with a West Elm job, no problem out there. And I felt pretty encouraged by that. And so here's this part of the journey. So here I was, moved to Washington State, lived in Washington State, and this was like brand new to me. I swear to you, I did not know anything about that state before I went there. We went there because my now ex-wife wanted to transfer colleges and went to Western Washington University up in Bellingham. And I mean, for all I pictured, like Western Washington was uh it like there were no cities, no civilization. I had literally no idea what to expect that then. Back then there was no real media yet. I mean, the internet was there and solid, but it just was a totally different thing. And I'm embarrassed now to think about how little I knew about that. But when I got out there, there was just a casino that was advertising. It was a small casino. There are lots of small tribal casinos in Washington State, and I appreciated the hell out of this. For $75, I could take a blackjack class, and so I did. And um, I just remember how fun it was realizing that, oh, I could get a job as a blackjack dealer, a table games dealer. Like I'd gone to the casino a few times with my dad. I did not understand what it meant that he had familiarity playing table games back then and playing slot machines. The times that we went, I thought like, oh, he's just playing a little bit. And I didn't really think anything of it. And so here I was going to a casino because I was a little bit familiar with it. And then I'd spent all this time around poker, and I passed my audition and became a table games dealer, which was really fun, especially at first. And you know, the blackjack class that I was in, I was taught by an incredibly professional former blackjack dealer from Vegas named Susan. Susan, if you ever watch this, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you were the person that taught me all these skills. You were absolutely incredible, incredibly patient teaching. When I teach people in remote dealer school and when I teach people in person, I teach them in a similar style and tone as to what you do. I'm never going to be as good as gently communicating as you, but I feel like I've learned a lot from you, and I deeply appreciate having had you as my teacher to start in table games. Um, and we had about maybe 7 people in the class that I was in, maybe 8, something like that. And I remember all of us sort of working together to learn. It was about a 5-week class. We learned blackjack, Spanish 21, 3-card poker, ultimate Texas Hold'em, maybe one more. Oh, you know what it was? It was blackjack. It was double deck blackjack and shoe blackjack. So 2 different versions. One of them was pitch. And that was my first experience, you know, getting into table games, and I loved the class. And when I got the job, I loved it. It was so fun. The audition was scary as hell. And they had us audition on a live table, and I'd never, like, other than trying to pass the class, I'd never done anything that felt like an audition. I didn't remember that audition 5 minutes after I did it, but you know, nowadays I look back and I remember that I did it. And getting the job as a table games dealer was just an incredible experience. And um, you know, within, I want to say 3 to 4 months or so, I had also learned how to deal poker. Which became a huge part of my life, and my teacher for poker was excellent. Also, thank you, Matt. I do have an interview on the True Poker Dealer channel with my poker dealer teacher, and I really enjoyed recording it. That was such a cool experience. And then I also learned how to deal craps and roulette, and I never got amazing at craps. It takes a lot of dedication in order to get good at it, but like I learned enough of it. And then I became a supervisor within about 4.5 months. So I was supervising and dealing. It's called dual rate supervisor. For those of you that are in the industry, you totally know what I'm talking about. And you know, I exposed myself to the industry like really up close and personal. And getting to go to a casino for work 40 hours a week was just a very, very good experience. And as a dealer, let me see. As a dealer, so this is where I want to shift things a little bit and start talking about what I've observed in the industry. Because I started really, like I talked about in the scratch ticket world, some of the observations I made, but they're sort of like, yeah, everybody knows that, or, you know, sort of whatever about it. Online poker, I did get a little bit of extra insight, but as a table games dealer and supervisor, I got a type of insight that was far above and beyond what I had anticipated. And I started to really see how things worked. And let's see. So something that as I worked in the industry, wait, is this the right one? I might have skipped one. No, this is a good one for now. So in the industry, I started to see a couple of things. Okay. The first thing was I thought it was weird as a supervisor in table games that we had to track where every single black chip went, where every single $500 chip went. And at the time, I just thought, okay, this is a part of it. Like they want us, maybe they want to make sure that nobody's stealing. Maybe they want to make sure this, maybe they want to make sure that. And I just didn't understand like really what was happening at the time with like tracking all the blacks and tracking all the players. I thought, oh, I'm tracking all the players for comps. And what I realized over time was that there's a lot more to it. Let's see here. Let me jump in here for a second. I got a message from my very, very helpful tech back of house, Haley, saying more FaceTime, less visuals, right? Uh, I hope to see Haley come on here and talk a little bit of crap with me or listen to my story. Hey, thank you. TPD Tech Queen, very nice. She gave us the wave. I love it. So look, there were a bunch of observations that I made as a dealer first, and here's a few of them. And these ones really stood out to me. And I still, when I think about some of this stuff, it really like lands for what the casino industry is. And you saw on that visual, even though Haley maybe didn't want it up as quickly as I put it there, that it's a business. Okay, I want you to hear this. The casino industry is a business, and I know that you guys know that. But this is what we're here to talk about, okay? Here's what I noticed. Number one, there are regulars. I thought it was weird when I got into table games that there were regulars, people that do this every single day, just about 5 days a week. They go in, and I'm not talking about poker, okay? I understand it. Poker, you can win in the long run. There's an element to poker that's a game of skill. I'm talking about slots. I'm talking about table games, okay? There were regular players there, and yes, a lot of you know that. But some of you don't. Some of you might be new to this. Some of you are thinking about like, oh, I might go to the casino for the first time today. There are regular people, people that go in there every single day or 5 days a week or once a week or regularly, to whatever that means to them. I got to know the regulars at the casino that I worked at as a dealer over and over and over again. And I had to wrap my head around it because even though I understood that there was an element of luck to playing table games and slots, I still thought to myself, that the truth here, and I'm like, doesn't everybody know this? The truth here is that you can't beat the house, right? You'd heard that saying over and over again. You can't beat the house. You can't beat the house. The house always wins. The house always wins. Like, how is it that people are doing this every single day or multiple days a week? And to the point where I'm dealing to them and I know them and they're like, oh, you're my lucky dealer, or oh, I don't win with you. I'm going to go over here. Or I mean, there's all these different little things. I'm laughing because I have a voice of the casino that I was at. Some people would come down from Canada and they would be Asian players from Canada. And they would say things like, you know, good. Like, it was just like, I mean, you take a lot of heat as a dealer. You get to know the regulars. But another thing that I noticed, just as an observation, as somebody in the casino industry dealing over and over again, 40 hours a week. First of all, there were players that were at the casino more than I was. Absolutely. Okay. But I also noticed that these people at the table, and this is the same for regular life, they got triggered all the time. So many players that came in and played got triggered regularly. And it was mostly over superstition. So, if you're dealing craps and you pass somebody dice with a 7 face up, they're going to be triggered. If you're dealing dice and you have and a player has their hands out on the table, when they throw the dice, if it hits their hand, they get triggered. If somebody's playing blackjack and another player at the table makes a decision that they would not make, they get triggered. If somebody is winning at a table game, it's them playing against the house, and like, let's say they're playing 3-card poker and they're doing really well, and somebody comes to the table and sits down in an open seat, they get triggered. There's so many things that I noticed as a dealer that would trigger the players that were there regularly. And so one, I was trying to wrap my head around, like, who in this world is sitting down to play almost all the time at these table games and slot machines when you know that you can't win? And again, I did not realize at the time that my dad was one of these people. I just didn't understand it. And I'm sitting there and I'm dealing and I'm seeing what's happening. And so, I mentioned my dad. I realized eventually, as I was at this job within a short period of time, when he would talk to me, he would want to hear about the stories, and he would share some of his own stories from when he was at a table game playing. And so I started to put the pieces together that my dad gambled and lost at the casino. And another thing that I noticed was my dad and so many other people that played table games and slots would regularly tell us about their wins and not tell us about their losses. And it was just a noticeable thing. I remember the first time that I ever heard about somebody winning six figures in a slot machine. It was like $110,000, $120,000. This was somebody that was at the first casino I worked at. I was a dealer at the time, and I remember dealing poker. And I heard about it in the break room. We talk about all kinds of stuff in the break room. Being a table games dealer in the break room is actually a fun part of the job. You end up with breaks all the time throughout the day. It's like 20 to 30 minutes here and there, and you just get to go and sort of shoot the shit with people and just have good conversation and get to know the people that you work with really well. And you're with different people there all the time. But this one person, like one person shared to another back there, oh, this person that we know that's here all the time won 100,000. It was like 120,000, 110,000 in a slot machine. We're like, oh my God, that's amazing. All of us, or at least I was thinking that's life-changing for this person. Like, that's incredible. And so I remember I was dealing poker, and that person, she played 4-8 limit Texas Hold'em sometimes during the day. And so she was sort of a regular there too. And so I remember she walked into the poker room. I'm dealing in one of the tables. There's only 3 poker tables at the first place that I worked. It was a small poker room. It was actually a part of the rest of the casino. Like, table games dealers would just go to poker sometimes and vice versa. And the supervisor, when she walked in, was like, oh my God, I heard you got $100 and something thousand. How much did you walk with? And that's incredible. And everybody was like, oh my God, we're so excited for you. She said, well, they ended up giving me 80,000 after taxes. And believe it or not, in the last year, I've lost more than that. I'm still down. And that information absolutely shook me. Like, I was still dealing at the time, but my mind could not wrap itself around that fact. And this person is somebody that, like, for months now, 8 months in a 3-table poker room, this person had been playing poker, and it's a much more chatty environment in a small poker room. Like, we got to know her. We knew that she wasn't doing the thing that sometimes people do where they don't want people to know how much money they have. Like, she was 100% serious. We'd seen her in the slot machines all the time. $100,000 winner, the very first one I'd ever heard of. That jackpot had been growing for months and months, even before I started working there, before it got hit. She won it, and she was still down for the year. And that was mind-blowing. And I really had to wrap my head around that. Another observation that I had that was sort of a thing that I didn't like at first. So when you get hired as a table games dealer, they basically tell you how to do the job, right? And this is my livelihood, so I'm not going to jeopardize my livelihood. I'm going to do exactly what they say. But one thing that they told me to do it just felt weird, was they told me to tell the players, come try your luck. When I was at the craps table, they told me, come to the craps table. It's the best odds in the house. When I was dealing like blackjack, for instance, I was able to tell them, your best odds are this bet right here. The side bet, the odds aren't as good. Play it if you want, right? But also, I was supposed to sell them on the bets. In other words, I was supposed to encourage them with little things that are truths, but are also sort of not truths. And it was just a weird overall feeling to be told by my employer, communicate with the players in this gently misleading way over and over again, right? Like I'm never supposed to tell them that the house has an advantage. I am supposed to tell them this is your best odds. I'm never supposed to tell them that you can't win in the long run, I'm supposed to tell them you can win today. And like, I sort of started to understand all that stuff. And I don't know, it was a strange feeling. Let me see. Matt says, I grew up in Vegas and seeing the insides of casinos daily, primarily for cheap food, is a great way to lose any illusions you have about the glamour of gambling. Like you found not a happy place. So, I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. And like from the inside, if you spend a lot of time, I imagine spending a lot of time working in a Vegas casino would be even more intense. Let me just put this up and make sure that I finish this here. Oh no, I do have a little bit more that I want to say about this. But yeah, I mean, getting inside in the casino industry is a pretty powerful thing. So let me see. Right. So a couple of things that I saw here that were just pretty wild. Every single day, I learned this more as a supervisor than a dealer, but every single day, I noticed that the table games tracking was incredibly rigorous. They had all this procedure that was aimed toward making it so that the money that went into the table was tracked on a daily basis. Actually, hold on a second. I am going to pause what I was just saying. Let me see. Haley, can you come say hi for a second, just for fun?
Hello.
Hey. Yeah, I'm going to look at my notes for a second. Do you have any advice for anybody in the world for anything, period?
Yeah, a lot.
We'll start somewhere.
You want me to give your people advice?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
we're just having fun here.
Let's see. Well, we know not to play scratch off.
Oh, so you've learned that.
We've learned that today.
Actually, I want to show a quick little statistic about that. Keep going, keep going.
And I mean,
all right. Thanks for coming on and trying. I enjoyed that.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, that was a fun little experiment. So I'm looking for a visual that I had. I don't see it here, and I mixed myself up for a second, but I'm just going to share this off of my notes. Okay. So I told you that we misled the players. Come try your luck. Great odds. Crap's the best odds in the house. I didn't like that feeling. But something else that I saw was the table games dealers that I worked with. And this was very hard for me to see. And I tried playing table games myself, but the table games dealers that I worked with, they basically learned how to play table games because they dealt it. They were comfortable with the cards. They were comfortable with the chips. And there were some of the table games dealers that I worked with that once they got more and more comfortable and more desensitized to playing, they would literally gamble away their paychecks. And I mean, as somebody that worked with them, I saw the excitement of it. And what would happen from my perspective is I would think at first, like, yeah, the house has an advantage, and this is the stuff that people just don't talk about. I mean, it's the truth though. I would see that the house had an advantage, and I would think the thing that they told me might be true. Like maybe they just had a bad week. Maybe because they would go in and start like betting $500 a hand because they couldn't feel the same sensation that you get from gambling without betting that much. And something that I realized looking back on all that is when I was getting into the casino industry as an employee, nobody was explaining the business side of it to us. And there's just something to be said for, by not explaining the business side of it, some of us didn't have the opportunity to know what we were getting ourselves into. And the dealers are comfortable at the tables, and like at that particular casino too, there's a lot of casinos around, and they allowed the people to play at those tables. That fact was just something that stuck with me, right? Like I think up until that point, I had heard the term gambling problem, and I had heard the term problem gambler, and there was like the 1-800 numbers and stuff like that that people could go to if they had a gambling problem. And at the time, I think I still thought to myself, oh, coincidentally, some of these table games dealers have gambling problems. That's just who they are. And I sort of had this belief at the time that inevitably that's who they're going to become because that's who they are. And then I started to like think about it more, and it was just a conversation internally in my own head where I was sort of asking myself, like, does this make sense? Is this really how things work? Like, because I noticed that the percentage of table games dealers with gambling problems seemed to me, I didn't have any real statistics on it, but it seemed to me that that was way higher than the percentage of non-table games dealers with gambling problems. I didn't have a lot of numbers on this, but that was just something that stood out to me. And as I'm going through the casino industry, I'm just sort of like grabbing pieces of information here and there and sort of internalizing them. And yeah, that part stuck with me. Watching the people that I work with do that over and over again was hard. And I would be talking with them. These were my friends after they lost their paycheck, and it was sort of the elephant in the room that we wouldn't talk about, and it was hard. And so, let me see. Along the way, I want to call Haley again because I just lost my thing. Don't worry, don't worry. I'll get it back. Don't worry, don't worry. This is a live stream. Don't worry. Oh, perfect. We got a comment. Let me jump in and just read that. Um, it says, I'm a table games dealer on the Vegas Strip. We don't see too many regulars, just a lot of tourists. I like that. I don't want to work at a local casino and see regulars lose all the time. Um, well, I definitely appreciate that comment. And that's interesting to me. Look, I've never worked in Vegas. I've never worked in the Vegas Strip. I've been there probably 10 times or so. And I would actually say, can you say more about that as a table games dealer in the Vegas Strip? Because from what I've heard from people, that's actually the opposite. There are a lot of regulars, but I hear you that you don't. And I also don't want to make you reveal which casino you work at, etc. Let's see. I lost my visuals. I gotta get them back. Well, that's fine. So let me just continue the journey here, and I'll take you into what came next. So I was a casino supervisor, and I might not have said this part just now, but basically, as I got promoted to supervisor, I started doing things like interacting with surveillance, right? Supervisor, if somebody's counting cards, I need to make sure that they're not beating the casino. And I always thought that was interesting too. Like just the very notion that people could be playing the blackjack game the way that the blackjack game is built to be played and still be breaking the rules of the casino was just a fascinating concept to me. I could not wrap my head around that either. I'm just like we're the ones that created the game this way. All that they're doing is playing the game the way that we created it. Why is this a problem if somebody's counting cards? Shouldn't we just create a better game? That was how it felt to me, because it's almost like the notion in casinos for me at the time was, okay, they say that the house has an advantage. I don't fully understand how this works, and I want to understand how it works. And so if the thing that we're doing is trying to help people win at casinos, because by the way, as a table games dealer, I would cheer for somebody anytime they won at my table. One, they were going to tip me. Two, it made them feel good and want to come back. But also, like, if they win at blackjack as a card counter, why don't I cheer for them then? It just felt sort of weird. Raven says, hey, TPD, good to see you again. Hey, good to see you too. It's been a while. Appreciate every time you're in the comments. And so I'm watching people get kicked out. Like I literally multiple times had to notice that somebody was at a blackjack table at my casino counting. I was a pit boss here. Sometimes I would count with them in order to verify it, call up to surveillance, have surveillance like rewind the tape and basically view to see, are they raising their bets when they have an advantage? Are they lowering their bets when they have a disadvantage because of the count? And then kick them out. And while I was never the one to actually walk over and do the kicking, like I was a part of the whole thing, identifying them and all this stuff. And it felt really weird to me. And then, over the years, I would hear stories. Like I heard about the Phil Ivey story when he was doing what's called edging in different casinos across the country. I thought it was really interesting that in the UK it wasn't allowed. But like as a table games dealer, also, I knew that we were tracking all this stuff at the table, but I just didn't fully understand what it was or why. And it wasn't until years later when I had more conversations with people in the industry that I understood what was happening. So basically, what's happening in a casino in table games and slots is the casino floor has a certain amount of space in it, and they're trying to maximize the amount of money that they get in each location in the casino floor. And I learned this through poker. I learned this. This is a table games thing, but people in poker have worked in table games a lot. And so supervisors would talk to each other about our casino experiences. And I certainly learned this in the casino world when I was dealing table games, but like mostly later, just reflected on it. So in the casino, basically, you've got your slot floor and you've got your table games floor. Okay. Imagine the amount of space that you have for all the table games that you have. You're trying to maximize the amount of money that you make as a casino. So the truth is that every single table game in the casino is a money-making machine. And the casino knows through trial and error and through statistics of others that have posted it in different places that like blackjack, for instance, is going to take in a certain amount of money every day, meaning players come to the table, they give their cash to the dealer takes their cash, they give them chips, they put the cash down the chute, and the casino keeps track of how much is in there. They keep track of how much chips are in the bank in the start of the day. They keep track of every single time a fill comes to the table, how much was brought to the table. And at the end of the day, they're going to do two things. And if those numbers are high enough over the course of a week or 2 weeks for a table game, they keep it. And if there's something that they know that does better, they replace it. And so those two things are, number one, they're evaluating how much money that table takes in. And number two, they're evaluating what percentage of that money the table holds on to by the end of the day, meaning how much money they make off of the table. And both of those things are important to them. And so in table games, you're basically setting up your pits to maximize your revenue, maximize the amount of money that comes in. And game mix is also an important factor too, because you're looking at the whole thing as an overall package too. And so sometimes you're tweaking which games you choose to have there. Even if this one doesn't make as much, the person that likes this game comes for this and blah, blah, blah. And the other thing that they're doing is they're monitoring all this stuff with a surveillance system that personally, I actually love the surveillance system. I want to put this back up because the surveillance system in a casino is something that I really got to know pretty well. And this is a pretty interesting picture right here, what you're seeing. This isn't too far off from how it really is, except nobody is allowed to see this except for like the top people. So the top people in the industry might be able to see this. And I was a supervisor and I was a shift manager, and I was never even allowed to go back and see the casino surveillance room. But what they're doing is they're actually, I love casino surveillance, by the way. So to this point, some of my observations, or most of my observations, have been sort of negative observations, right? I've been talking about things that I see that make me uncomfortable, things that I've experienced that make me uncomfortable, things that I can't wrap my head around. One thing that I've experienced in the casino world is the surveillance department and how incredible it is. Okay. Surveillance departments are truly amazing that you can monitor so much about the procedure. And basically casinos surveillance is making sure that the casino's revenues are protected. The casino is protected, period. The table games dealers are protected, right? Like if there was one time where a friend of mine that was a dealer had a player try to get him across the table and come after him, and it's all recorded, right? Everything's recorded. When he goes to file an assault charge, it's completely covered and recorded. The players are protected. The house is protected. A dealer has an incredibly difficult time doing anything shady. It's hard for a dealer to steal between the procedure and then the surveillance, understanding the procedure and monitoring through that. And it's also very hard for a player to do something and not have their interests protected. In other words, if a player wins And, some casinos may be notorious back in the day from not paying out jackpots or stuff, but it's getting better nowadays. If a player wins something that they're entitled to a certain amount of money, the casino has the ability with surveillance to go and verify that it happened correctly. And so, for me personally, I think that that's one of the best systems around. And, you can see that I've got some like basketball cards, baseball cards, stuff like that. This hobby desperately needs this casino surveillance system to some degree in order to protect itself, because the casinos do it incredibly well and the sports card world does it horribly. They've got multi-million dollars worth of cards on the floors. Well, I could go on and on about how crazy casino surveillance is, but I just wanted to share that. Let's see. We've got some comments here. I'm just gonna hit them real quick. Raven says, I tried to learn counting cards, but I don't think I have the temperament or the level of focus required now. Yeah, as a card counter, it's very difficult to oh wait, let me do it this way. How do I do this? There we go. I can put it up like this. Great. As a card counter, not only do you have to know how to count cards and keep up with it in a fast speed, but you also have to be able to disguise yourself so that if you get caught anywhere, you're not barred from everywhere. I mean, I've never tried counting cards like for money, but I've done it like back of the house. I had to learn how to do it as a blackjack supervisor. That was a whole crazy experience. Now this one. As a table games dealer, I can't see betting table games regularly after I get off work. The casino pays us to deal the game, so there's a big enough edge where they can pay people to run the game and still be profitable. So I would ask you, and I appreciate those comments, just being honest, not saying where you work or anything like that. Do any of your coworkers that are also table games dealers play table games? And about what percent? If the answer is yes, I'd be curious to hear that. These are just the things that I noticed. Like, I would be shocked if you said nobody. Okay, fine. I would be shocked if the answer is nobody. I've seen it over and over and over again in small casinos and big casinos, like just anywhere I go. And you said, right, the house always wins in the end. So yeah, so that was a lot of that part of my journey. And let me see. I'm still stuck on this one thing. I feel like I had some notes on something and they're just gone and it hurts. Well, anyway, look, after I left supervising table games and poker at the same time, I went to become a full-time poker supervisor. And again, there were more things that I learned along that journey. And I'm going to now that Haley has told me not to put as many things up on the screen, it's almost more fun for me to put stuff up on the screen. So I'm going to do that now. Oh crap, I have to figure out. Let me see. Here we go. Let's say open and full-time poker supervisor. And that is not a picture of me. I can see her backstage. Her eyes went like buggy-eyed when she saw this image. Yeah, this is a ridiculous image, but it's the one that I have. You're fine. I opened a poker room. Okay, so when I became a full-time poker supervisor, it was actually a really fun experience for me. I opened a poker room. I made it so that I was one of 3 people. There was a poker director, a poker shift manager, and me, the poker supervisor at this new job that I just got. I was in Florida now, and I got to open a poker room like from scratch. Not all the way from scratch, but I was there before the building was like the build out was completed. And that was a really powerful experience. I mean, getting to see what that looked like firsthand was just a really powerful experience. Being a part of the hiring, I mean, I did so much on that. And let me see. I'm going to put this back. And I like it up here. That guy cracks me up. What does that say? I think it says auditioner on his name tag. And then there's also a man with a clipboard facing the other way that's apparently auditioning. I like this. And so, as a lot of you know, while I was a full-time poker supervisor, I auditioned and hired a ton of people. And this is just a part of my personal journey. And I liked it, And so it was really nice getting to, like, I had done a little bit with this before, but I mean, basically auditioning, what was it? It was probably 300 auditions to start, period. And then they liked how much I did it when we opened the room, that they just sort of let me keep going. And so I got used to like being a manager and all of the things in and out of hiring. And, fast forward to my True Poker Dealer days, obviously that was a pretty powerful thing. I just want to go back to this poker playing. I didn't even see that said poker playing idiot. I honestly don't know at my current casino. A previous casino, I'm friends with another dealer still, and we play poker. Oh wait, I do remember he said he played craps. I remember he said he lost a lot one session, and he is a craps dealer. Matt says, you talk about the sensation. My mom likes to go to the boats, and I heard from my sister she sometimes loses quite a bit. So I asked my mom, what's a lot to you? And she said a couple thousand. Yeah, I mean, this is the No Gamblers Nation conversation, and we're just starting, right? Like, I'm taking you guys on my journey just for a little bit, but I have a lot to share, and that feeling is a powerful feeling, and a few thousand is a reasonable amount for somebody to lose that's going to one of those ships, or boats, I should say. And I remember actually, oh man, this is a long time ago. My grandmother used to go on, I think it was the Palm Beach Princess back in, and now actually I'm remembering completely. My grandmother used to play slot machines a ton. And I don't remember all the details of her particular experience with it, but she used to play slot machines a ton. And yeah, like she would go on the Palm Beach Princess, and I always felt like she was losing. But after she would win something on a machine, she would walk over to me and just give me some cash. And obviously, I liked her gambling because I didn't understand what was happening at the time. And her giving me cash was a tremendous feeling, right? I'm just like, really? And like, this was when I was, I want to say 18, and then when I was 21, and then when I was 25. And I mean, that was truly a tremendous feeling. Let's see. We are a blue collar FOPK. So I asked her why so much, and she said it has to be enough that I can feel it. $20 here or there does nothing, but 500 or 1,000 you feel. Yeah, totally makes sense. The longer that it goes on, the more desensitized a person gets to those feelings, and the larger the dollar amounts become. She said, as you get older, there are a few things that really make you feel anymore, and winning a big or even losing big makes me feel. Boy, oh boy, do I want you to come back next week to talk about this some more. So I don't know if we've said this yet, and Haley, if you're back there and you can hear me, let's share with people that we're doing this show. So this No Gamblers Nation show is going to be every week. And we're going to start out twice a week. And if we can keep up with twice a week, we're going to keep doing that. So Mondays and Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, every single week, we're going to be coming back on here, and I'm going to be sharing stuff. Today is sharing my journey, but what you're sharing right here, we're not going to just be sharing this. We're going to be sharing a lot more. And I'm going to tell you exactly what we're here for in a little bit. Folk. I'm reading my secret comment from Haley. So I guess I misread something. Oh, well. Okay, so let me see. As a poker supervisor, so I'm a poker supervisor now, and I had some observations that I made, and I'm going to share these two. I think it's all relevant. I'm going to put them up on the screen, and let me see. Yeah, I think Haley, next time I'll have you be in charge of the visuals. It is a little bit much to manage for me. Let's see. So the business of poker, right? So we talked about the business of casinos. As a poker supervisor, obviously I learned the business of poker, and I learned this as a poker dealer too, and I learned this as True Poker Dealer. And for those that know, obviously you know that when I was a poker supervisor, I decided I was tired of hiring people and then training them to become the dealer that they've already been hired to be. So I just created the resource True Poker Dealer back in 2011, launched it in 2012. We call it True Poker Dealer, and now it's the world's largest resource for how to deal poker. And I've learned a lot from that too. So between being a poker supervisor and being True Poker Dealer, I have learned about the business of poker. And David Sklansky recently came, I mean, not that recently, it was a few years ago at this point. He came out with a thing saying poker rooms love regular losing players, the fish and the whales, and that's who you want to care about as a poker room the most. So basically, in order for a poker game, you're in the business of opening tables in poker. It's a totally different thing, okay? You're not looking for poker players to come lose against your dealers at table games. They're not playing against the house. You're just taking a cut. You're taking a cut, and good players can win. Bad players are going to lose whether or not a cut goes to the house. And so everybody comes to play poker, and it's nobody wants to be a fish or a whale, but some people don't care. But something that I definitely learned over time was that there were two different types of players. There were gamblers, and then there were skilled players. Gamblers are always losers. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying that they lose in the long run, just like at table games, they lose in poker. Skilled players can lose in the long run, but they're the ones that if somebody's going to win, it's going to be them. And as a poker room, you're trying to keep the losing players happy. That's your key to success, because the losing players being happy is going to make it so that everybody comes to your poker room. That's just the nature of that business. That's one of the really powerful lessons that I learned. And that's just the truth of it. Let me see. I have a really cringe visual that I thought about maybe sharing here. So, I mean, as a poker supervisor, I started to learn the ins and outs of the industry. I learned like what it's like to be a dealer, what it's like to be a supervisor, what it's like to be in the industry, what it's like to work with people in the industry, what the break rooms are like, what it's like to manage people. I learned about HR. I learned about the systems therein. I learned about how the money goes. Once I got to shift manager, and this was a casino that had slot machines. I actually got to see a lot of numbers. And while I appreciate that, there's certain things from that were shocking and startling. I mean, we talked about table games so far. Slot machines generally do about 80% of the revenue in casinos. That means that people are sitting in slot machines. And I talked about the layout of a casino where you're trying to figure out which table games are the best. It's the same thing for slot machines. Okay. You're testing this slot machine to see how much money people put into the machine in a given day and what percentage it holds. And so the reason you have to track both of those, by the way, is a slot machine that has a really high hold percentage that nobody plays, the casino doesn't want, because they're not going to make that much money off of it. They're looking for that balance, right? For a slot machine, they're looking for the balance between how much money is someone pumping into that machine and playing, like how much do they like it, and then what percent does it hold, and is that machine worth the space on the floor? Casinos, you only have so much physical space. Let's see. Poker playing idiot says, I've made a decent chunk playing poker, and as a table games dealer, I don't understand why people play table games instead of poker. Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about this in a second, and we're going to talk about this for weeks and weeks, and we're going to shed some light on a lot of this, and you're completely right. Let me see. So, I mean, I was a poker supervisor, and I just got into the business of it, and I learned. And as I said, one of the things that I did as a poker supervisor was I became True Poker Dealer, and I am going to share a very cringy visual right now, just for myself, because I made the visual, so I'm going to share the visual. That's why I'm sharing it. It's not because it's good. It's because I made this visual, so I'm going to share this visual. So this is true. I created True Poker Dealer. It was a resource for people to learn to do this job. And then when COVID hit in 2020, I turned it from a partial course that teaches people how to deal poker into a full thing. And since then, I've also opened Remote Dealer School, where now anybody can learn how to do this job from home with me. I teach a class now where I teach people to do this job. But as True Poker Dealer, creating all these videos, creating all this content, having all these comments, having all these people email me, and I'm available as much as I can be to people in this world that are interested in learning to work in casinos as professional poker dealers. By creating this, I've gained so much perspective. I mean, all around the world, I've gained so much perspective about all of this stuff. My observations as True Poker Dealer, they're not as relevant to No Gamblers Nation, but I think it's still important just to share some of this. People across the industry have different rules and different circumstance. Okay. That's something that I've seen over and over again. Whenever somebody first learns to deal, they believe that that's the right way to deal. That's something that I've seen over and over again. And you know, it's funny because as somebody who teaches people how to deal poker on the internet, right? You're in a Zoom class with me, and you're not necessarily going to just work at the local poker room down the street after you get a job where I could tell you exactly what their rules are. I need to know what all the different rule sets are across the country in order to be able to train people properly. I need to give them that insight. And that's been a pretty powerful thing. Realizing that there's more than one way to do it, realizing that casinos all have different ways of operating, realizing that the way that you learn how to deal in your poker room is not the same everywhere. And, I'll say this, there are more lessons there, but this isn't the point today. I did learn how to have a platform. I learned how to be criticized. I learned how to be human in front of a camera. Like right now, at times, as I'm talking to you, I'm like, ugh, what did I just say? But it's fine, right? Like I learned how to be here and be humble and be me and not worry about it. And like my journey into all of this has led me to what I'm about to tell you in a couple of minutes. Now, before I share what the whole point of No Gamblers Nation is, I do want to share with you all, before my dad passed away, I learned, and he told us this, and we had to like process this in the family. I learned that he probably lost over $1 million lifetime playing scratch tickets in Massachusetts. $1 million lifetime. And it was probably over about 40 years. And he had the habit, like he would go to work. He wasn't happy in his life, something like that. And this was a feeling that he gave himself where he would go and he would try to get big winners. And he estimated $1 million in his life. I assume it might even be more than that. And it's ironic to think about it in my shoes, to see that like my dad gambling all these years with scratch offs, and he went to casinos too. And I'm sure that he had six figures or more that he lost in casinos over the years as well. And there's some stories there that I'm not going to get into right now. I don't have the time for it. I don't really feel like it. But my dad going to just lose over $1 million in scratch offs, like he's trying to win the lottery, right? Well, if he just adds up all that money, what does he have? He has a lottery winner, right? Like millions of dollars. If you put that back then, I had ChatGPT tell me if he were to, over those 40 years, have invested into traditional mutual funds that make like, 7-8% a year on the average, how much money he'd have from the money that he put into scratch offs, 10 million plus. And that was before he passed away. Well, I didn't ask ChatGPT that before he passed away, but you know what I mean? But it's interesting, right? Like the person, my dad, my own dad, the one chasing all of this stuff, he would have won the lottery if he just took all that money and put it into himself in investments. And, we worked with him for years once he shared all that stuff, and he was on more of a fixed income, and like nothing seemed to help. Therapy didn't get him to stop buying scratch offs. Gambling hotlines didn't get him to stop buying scratch offs. Nothing seemed to help. And he was open to trying to help. Like he understood the math of it a little bit, but that was his life. And it was like that until he passed away. And, in reflecting in the industry, okay, and all the observations that I've noticed and made throughout time, there's one thing that like, this will be my starting point for No Gamblers Nation. Actually, I'm going to just look at this one comment here and then we'll get into it. It says, how I got into gambling was about 8 or 9 years old. My grandpa and father always taking me to the racetrack. I'd be making bets for them quite often. I worked in a poker room as a supervisor in Florida at a racetrack. And so that's a whole other thing too, that I haven't spoken about. But I mean, watching the way that people would bet on horses it's a very similar thing. Definitely appreciate that comment. So I want to share this with you right now. And another visual, and you can cringe all you want, Haley. So this right here, actually, I think that this is being hidden by, what do we got here that's hiding it? Haley, can you get the thing with the duck in the upper right, the QR code off for a second? I just want this to be on the screen and have it be clear and simple. This is what No Gamblers Nation is about. She said yes, 1 sec to me. So in our society, in our United States, in our world, the place that we live, and beyond the US as well, there are these negative expected value systems, the gambling engine, as I call it, where statistically people are guaranteed to be losers. Statistical significance is the thing that I'm talking about here. And people don't always understand what this is and how it works. And so I'm talking to you right now about the gambling engines in US culture, these systems designed with a built in mathematical loss. Okay. Why am I talking about this now? Because every single person that I have go through my remote dealer school for True Poker Dealer that learn to work in casinos are vulnerable without this information. Every single table game dealer that goes to a casino for the first time without this information is vulnerable to developing the habit of gambling. And I think that it's time that we started being responsible around this, naming the places where there are gambling engines, meaning if you continue to participate in any of these gambling engines over and over again, you are statistically guaranteed to lose in the long run. And the long run's not as long as you think it is. And I'm going to talk about some of the specifics, and we're going to break this stuff down over the next weeks. So if you have any interest in learning the real insider nitty-gritty details of how these gambling engines work, I am going to be breaking these things down week after week, talking about this with all of you, bringing on guests. I didn't take any guests this time, but we're going to be having people come on, not just in the chat, but I'm going to be chatting with actual people gambling. I'm going to be showing clips of people, all kinds of stuff like that. And I just want you to see this for a second. Casinos, this has been here forever. Okay, slots, table games, roulette, baccarat, craps are examples of it. The racetrack is a good one that's not even on here. State lotteries. These are negative gambling engines where you literally cannot win in the long run, and the long run is not as long as you think, and we're going to talk about all that stuff soon. Sports betting. Okay, sports betting is another thing. It's a built-in house edge. Anything that has a built-in house edge, it is a system designed to get you to feel good. And when you feel good, you get stuck in the system, and I'll show that to you in a second. Sports card breaking. This one's sort of new. As you can see, I've got sports cards behind me. Nowadays, there's a thing called breaking in sports cards and Pokemon cards and all this stuff where it's a full-on gamble at this point, except technically I believe the terminology can't be called gambling because you get cards, you get an actual thing. In casinos, you when you lose, you don't get money, and when you win, you get money. In sports cards, you get cards, so they're still in this like loophole where they don't consider it gambling. But the truth is that it is a negative EV system, and it's a clearly negative EV system. And there's manipulation in it to the communication of the people, just like in casinos, like what we talked about. Loot boxes and gotcha. I'm not going to get into that one because I don't know it as well, but it's a similar system. And then there's online casinos, sweepstakes casinos, mobile slots. These different industries have the same mathematical outcome. They're all negative EV systems. They are intelligently designed in order to get people like you, like your family members, like me, to, in the long run, lose their money. And let me just put this over here and then pull it in. And let me see a couple of comments real quick before I keep going. I can already feel it. Haley is going to be your Frankie on Portnoy pizza review videos. Yeah, I'll actually give a shout out to the Professor Sports Cards. There's a Frank back there, and we sort of like I was a guest recently on Professor Sports Cards live stream, and I've been doing live streams for years. All right, so I'm not new to this. I've used StreamYard. I've used all this stuff in the past, but I was just like, you know what, I've been figuring out what structure I want. And this is what it's going to be. And Haley, come say hi one more time. I know that we're almost done here, but yeah, fix your hair first. That's perfect. I like that. Yeah, come say hi. I like how you have TPD Tech Queen. You guys, you have Haley here for a second. She has the power to leave on her own. My request is for her to be here. But if anybody wants to talk to Haley for a second, please do so. And I like this comment. I can already feel that Haley's going to be your Frankie.
See, I don't even know what that means.
Right. I'm sort of, well, I mean, energetically, you know what it means, right? I'll speak your language for a little
Yeah.
bit. By the way, tell them what you know about casinos for a second.
I know anything that True Poker Dealer has told me in his personal time.
That's it, right?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Oh, well, how about this one? Just go with it. Hey, no, you're not supposed to. That means you need help. That's not
I
what we
don't need
want
any
here.
help. No, I don't need any
Right.
help.
Well, so now you've signaled to the authorities that you do need help, and contradicting it, the way that it works is you need help. So
Okay, give me another one. Signal that I don't need help. That's how it works.
it's
Right?
also not how it works. Anyway, when people at table games ask me for some tips, I say just bet all the money on red and black and then leave regardless of the outcome, up the variance. They always say I'm not doing that. Yeah. So one thing we're going to talk about when, like, next week, I've got so much stuff ready to go on casino variance. I'm going to tell you exactly how long until you hit the long run, until you're statistically guaranteed to be a loser. And we're using statistical significance. Technically, anything's possible, right? I want to be accurate in the thing that I say, but like, I've got some good stuff for you guys. We're going to break down the system of gambling, the negative EV system, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff coming up. Caveat: bet all the money they have on the table, not there in the bank. You just didn't want. I thought, Haley, maybe what you would do is put yourself up on screen and kick me off, which you have the power to do too.
This is my nightmare.
Really? Wow.
Only because I have nothing to talk about.
Well, you do have something to listen. You've got more than 1 million views on your own stuff on Instagram alone. Like,
I can talk about my own stuff, poker, casinos. Marc was like, hey, as the back end, as the tech back end, if there's any interesting comments, like, you should just pin them on the screen so everyone can see. And I was like, that would be great if I had any idea what anyone was talking about.
all right, well, that's fair, and I appreciate you living your nightmare for me.
Happy to be here. I'm just supporting the cause. Okay,
yes. Bye. Okay, bye. So I just want to show you guys this real quick. We got the gambling engines on the left, same thing we talked about before. Okay, on the right, we've got just a quick little introduction to the gambling habit loop. This isn't the perfect way to display this information, but the question is, right, and we're going to explore this a lot. Haley, can you pull the comment off there? The question is, and we're going to explore this a lot, if this is a negative expected value system, why do people do it? What has them coming back? How do they get stuck in it? Okay. And by the way, I want to be real clear about something. I am not saying that I'm trying to end gambling. I am not saying that people shouldn't gamble. I am saying I'm literally a supporter of you doing whatever you want to do in your life. Okay. I'm saying I want to talk about some of the things that people don't talk about. I want to bring attention to the parts of this. There's a responsibility that I have as True Poker Dealer, as somebody that sends people out into the casino industry. There is a responsibility that I have to help bring integrity to this industry and help people understand what they're getting themselves into. We are here to communicate transparency, like, literally. And we know that we can't stop people from gambling. And yeah, like, so I'm just going to put this back one more time, right? There's a loop here, right? So somebody places a bet, they get a random outcome. If it's a good outcome, they get a dopamine hit, right? And so they start training themselves to feel good when they get a good outcome. And you guys know, slot machines and table games, there's a lot of satisfying. They're built to be incredibly satisfying. And, you see this person in the shackles here where they repeat the loop, they lose money, but there's a trigger with an ad with an urge, right? So there's so many things that trigger people into the urge to place that next bet. We're going to talk about all that stuff. We're going to break down the gambling system in a way that you guys haven't seen before from an insider in the industry. And listen, this journey of mine that I went on, I just wanted to get it out there. I wanted to create an introduction to the show, to the things that we're going to talk about. And if you want to be on this show, talking to me, challenging me, I don't care. We have a way for you to do that. Haley, can you put up the way for somebody to be a guest on the show? If you want to be a guest on No Gamblers Nation, Monday and Tuesday, 6 p.m. for the foreseeable future. TruePokerDealer.com, No Gamblers Nation guest, NGN guest. All right. If you want to be on the show, we'll have you on the show. I will talk to you. I will debate you about anything. I will talk to you positively about it. We can share experiences if you worked in the industry. Whatever it is, I'm here for it. There's all kinds of stuff we're going to talk about, and we're going to be back next week. It's going to be Monday. I'm going to start out doing about an hour and a half each time, right? So this is about it for us now, and we're here to not just this is not No Gamblers Nation, like a group of people getting together to do this, okay? This is us communicating what's actually happening in gambling so that our nation has the information. And we're here to get the information together. It's not just me telling you. If you think that you have helpful information to help with this show, I want to hear it. I've got a lot, and I know you guys have some stuff too. And thank you guys for being here today. Haley, come on one more time and just say bye with me. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being back there, helping with everything.
My pleasure.
Thank you guys for watching the famous My Pleasure. All right. We'll see you guys Monday at 6 o'clock, Tuesday at 6 o'clock every week for the foreseeable future. Later.